My name is Lorraine Raimundo, a current business student at the College of Business here at UTA. And today we have an amazing panel discussing the places you can go. Our panel includes recent graduates Austin Burkhart, Customer Experience Product Manager with the BNSF, Will Goff, Controller with the Dallas Mavericks, and Nicole Sheridan, Human Resource Business Partner with Lockheed Martin. Our goal today is that you will come away with an innovative idea, a fresh perspective, or a new strategy that you can apply to be more successful in your business or career search. The format for today's event will begin with a few questions that I will ask the panelists to spotlight some high-level themes and ideas that we should be thinking about. Then we will open it up for questions that you can submit using the chat feature or by raising your hand. If we do run out of time today, please be assured that we will post your answers to your submitted questions via chat after the conclusion of today's event. Sounds good? All right, great. Let's start with the panel questions. My first questions today for our panelists will be, we'll just get started by telling me about yourself and telling our audience a little bit about yourself. And you guys can go in any order that you would like.
Ladies first.
All right, thank you. My name is Nicole Sheridan. I am, like Lorraine said, an HR business partner at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics. I was born and raised in Euless, Texas, and went to UTA, got my undergrad in interdisciplinary studies with a concentration in business communication. And at that point in time, interdisciplinary studies had a social justice theme track, which I took a few courses and just fell in love with. And during my undergrad, I also got a minor in disability studies, shout out to Dr. Rose, and also a diversity certificate. And then I graduated with my master's in human resources management in December of 2016. Started with Lockheed in May 2019. Apart from that, what I do with my free time is I bought a house a few years ago, and I'm slowly just, updating that. I actually fully painted it gray and white and black last week. So apart from that, that's really all there is fun to know about me.
Go ahead, Will.
All right, yeah, so my name is Will Goff. I grew up in Frisco, Texas, and that was before it became the super cool town that it is now with all the cool things you can do. But I grew up, I love sports, particularly basketball. So my current workplace just so happened to work that way, which is nice. But I grew up, or I was starting to think about, what I wanted to do in college and beyond, and thought, hey, maybe the coaching and teaching route was right up my alley. And so when I was actually applying to schools, I was applying to the College of Education because I was like, hey, I want to be a teacher. That's what I want to do. And then senior year of high school, took an elective class. It just so happened to be accounting. And by the end of that class, I was like, hey, I'm good at this stuff. I like it. I think this is what I wanted to do. So first day at freshman orientation at UTA, changed my major from College of Education to College of Business. And never really looked back. I spent 6 years at UTA and left with both my bachelor's and master's in accounting. And then along the way, I've worked at 3 different places in the accounting industry. So I started off at PSK LLP. It's a CPA firm in Arlington. Then I moved on to Ernst & Young in Dallas, and then currently with the Dallas Mavericks. And then a little bit about me personally. I am married to my lovely wife, Jordan, and we have 2 boys. Liam, he's our oldest. He just turned 3. And Noah's our youngest. He's 8 months, and we live down in Mansfield. So that's me in a nutshell.
Love that. Hi, everybody. Man, so grateful to be here today. My name's Austin Burkhart, and I grew up in Arlington, Texas, and I remember even going to UTA basketball games when it was actually in a theater. They didn't have a stage, and we were constantly worried that someone was going to fall off all the time because it was literally up on like a theater stage that they would play basketball on. But my family's been involved in the Arlington community a long time, and it's just been plugged in a lot of different ways. You know, I think if you grew up in Arlington, and if you go to UTA, you know that Bethany's is the best place to get Chinese food off of Cooper Street. You know, and you know the TRE is probably the best way to get to a Mavs game. Shout out to Will there. But I think the three most important things to me personally, you know, is to love God, love people, to be a servant everywhere you go, and just to steward the gifts that God's given me. And part of that is through education. And so, you know, UTA was a very formative time for me. I'm currently working on my MBA at Southern Methodist University, which I think Miss Nielsen still hasn't forgiven me for not coming back to UTA. And I love being active too, playing basketball. I'm going to try to hoop with Will apparently sometime soon now. And lately it's been pickleball as well. I don't know if anyone's played that before, but it's kind of the new fad. I also bought a house last year in the middle of the pandemic, which was a miracle all in of itself. So grateful for that. Love to cook, love photography, and love getting to meet with people. So happy to be here today.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing a little bit more about yourself. I think so. Now that we've learned more about our panelists, would you mind sharing us more about your time here at UTA, or the College of Business specifically, if there's anything that you guys would want to share with our audience today?
I figured we can just go in the same type of path. So my time at UTA, you know, I wasn't exactly planning to go to UTA. It just kind of happened by happenstance, which really is the story of my life pretty much, and how I got into HR and just diversity related initiatives. So I, you know, started in May of or August of 2012. My actually first major was biology, because I feel like, you know, every kid always wants to be a doctor for whatever reason. And then I realized the only thing I could remember about science is that mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. And I can't math. I learned that fairly quickly. So UTA, you know, really transformed me just from, you know, learning about who I am and what I want to do with my path, but also I am also a individual wheelchair user, and I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease when I was 13 and became a wheelchair user right around 15. And so I didn't really coincide my quote unquote normal body with my quote unquote, you know, this disabled body. And so actually the minor at UT Arlington was, I think, in its second year. The disability studies minor is what I'm referring to. So when I took those classes, you know, there were a lot of electives like, you know, art and disability, you know, media and disability, self and social identity, just a variety of different ones that you can think about. And specifically, I took disability history. And having acquired an autoimmune disease, I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anything about the disability, you know, rights movement or anything like that. So I think specifically for me, it just helped me come into my own as a person with a disability, and then as a woman with a disability on top of that. So it just helped me learn a lot about who I am as a person with a disability, and then what I wanted to do with my career as well.
That's amazing. Thank you, Nicole. Sorry to cut you off. Well, I was just gonna throw that to you, but yeah, thank you, Nicole, for sharing that. That's very inspiring. Do you like to go, Will?
Yeah, and Nicole, I'd actually like to link up with you afterwards if we could. But yeah, my time at UTA, it was awesome. Like I said, I spent 6 years here. I lived on campus every single one of those years. I started off at KC Hall and moved to Centennial Court, and then finished up at Meadow Run. But like I said, when I first came to UTA, I was kind of like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Thought it was business and accounting, and it ended up being that way. But I was still focused on my passion of basketball and teaching and coaching. So I actually got looped in with the basketball team. My freshman and sophomore year, I was a manager. So doing all the dirty work, wiping up sweat off the court, doing laundry, doing all the things nobody else wants to do. But that was a great time for me. And while I was there, I met a player by the name of Drew Charles. And by the way, Austin, I came the first full year that the College Park Center was open, so I never got to experience Texas Hall and the stage. I got spoiled with the brand new arena. But anyway, I met Drew, and he was a business major just like I was. And he comes to me one day and he goes, "Hey, Will, I heard they got this thing called the Goolsby Leadership Academy. You know, they're going to teach you leadership skills, there's scholarship. Like, will you do this with me?" And I'm like, "Drew, that sounds cool. I'm like, not really interested though, but thanks for asking." And that was my initial reaction. Ultimately, I sat on it and I ended up saying like, "Hey, let's do it. Let's do it together." So we go and we do these interviews and we get into Goolsby and he goes, "Hey, Will, by the way, I just found out I can't do Goolsby. There's a conflicting schedule thing with the time the classes are and the basketball practice." And I'm like seriously, you're going to get me looped into this and leave me all by myself? But that was a crucial moment in my time at UTA, because really I had to figure out, okay, do I want to stick with this basketball path or do I want to go more of the business path? I later figured out how I could combine the two, but didn't know that at the time. And so I was like, all right, I'm doing the business thing. And so that's really when I started to get involved with the College of Business, joined some other organizations like Accounting Society, Beta Alpha Psi, did some events with Alpha. Um, but that's really the moment that I shifted my focus of career from basketball and teaching and coaching to, all right, let's do this accounting thing and let's figure out how to make this work. Um, and I'll close with the silly story that my wife makes fun of me for, but this just shows how much of an impact UTA had on me and how much I truly do love UTA. My last 2 years when I was doing my master's, we were dating at the time, and we'd be walking on campus and I'm just going around like always picking up trash, throwing it away. She's like, "Will, why are you always picking up trash?" And I just have the mindset, I'm like, I'm not going to let anybody litter on my campus. Like I took the mindset that, hey, this is like my house. Like I got to keep it clean. Don't want anybody to make it dirty. So I truly took pride in UTA. And I am proud to be an alum of this college. So that's my time. Austin, take it away.
Thank you, Will. Austin?
Man, I just really like Will and Nicole already. They're just super cool. So my time at UTA, like Nicole, I actually started as a biology major and thought I was going to go on a medical track. And after anatomy and physiology, I realized that was not the path for me. So interestingly enough, I just sat in on a class for I think it was like a network. It was network infrastructure, but it was within information systems at UTA, and I was really interested. I thought, okay, this is something I want to do. Quickly after that, also learned about Goolsby, which Will and I share that experience, and thought, okay, it's a great opportunity to maybe develop in leadership and also just like having community and network at UTA. And am forever grateful for those experiences. So my time really was kind of it was a discovery of just what I wanted to do, but also just gave me so much of a basis for the next step in my journey as well, which I think we'll talk about here in a little bit. How that kind of led to where I'm at now. But so grateful for just the time that I had in the different kinds of organizations I got to be part of on campus as well. I think that's like one of the most valuable things you can do is just be plugged in on campus. And I was a commuter student, but I really felt like, you know, like UTA had I had a home there, and I kind of did. I had a friend that lived on campus, and I spent a lot of nights there when I had to like stay up doing homework and just stay the next day. So it felt like I lived there.
Well, thank you all. I think it means a lot for you guys to reflect back on your time at UTA and speak very highly of it. And so, going more about your time at UTA and the College of Business, obviously all three of you are very successful today, but will you be able to share with us how the College of Business and UTA has helped you where you are today?
Well, I will say you both are super extroverted. I was that quote unquote weird girl that just went like into school, went to my class, did my homework, left immediately. Like I just was like, okay, there to, get my education just because, going through acquiring an autoimmune disease, I just social anxiety was real, so I didn't want to, do anything extra or cause any whatever. And that was something that I have learned to come to terms with, to, be okay with like existing in my own space. So I can wholeheartedly say that I would not be in my specific job right now if it was not for the College of Business. So this is going to kind of go into the last question as well. So, I spent all of my time in the College of Business. I think I had all of my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I was there from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So I was like doing homework in between, Netflixing, just doing what I could. And I would say I had at least a semi-good relationship with all of my professors. And there was one professor in particularly, I can't recall exactly what class it was, but he made us do a career profile at the very beginning of the class. Like, hey, who are you? What do you want to do? What do you think? What do you dream your career is going to be? So I was in, my master's of human resource program at the time. So I was like, okay, I want to work in human resources somewhere. And he was like, look, if I can do anything to help you, if you want me to look over your resume, if you want me to do whatever, just let me know. And I think you hear that a lot as a student, but you don't realize like how much your professors mean it. And so that was during the semester, and probably a good 2-3 semesters later, I was applying to internships because I was getting to my senior year, applying to jobs. And I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I was wondering if we could meet up, chat, could you look over my resume, give me some interview tips? And I was, again, a person with a disability, and I was navigating that weird gray area that's like, in my mind, I know it's illegal to discriminate against people, who have disabilities, but like when I show up in my interview and I'm in a wheelchair, like, do I acknowledge it? Because they're going to see it, you know what I mean? So I was just asking for feedback and advice from all of my professors. And I had already applied to several internships at Lockheed Martin. And so we met up at the little bookstore and, had a coffee, and he said, oh, well, I wish I knew which positions you applied for. And I was like, well, if you just hold on one second, I can tell you right now. And he physically took my resume, handed it to the VP of HR. And he's the reason that I got my job right now. He actually hired my boss's boss's boss when they first started. So he was the previous vice president of human resources over at RMS or MFC. So he single-handedly skyrocketed my career. So I would say, network with your professors, at least let your professors know who you are. Don't just, not engage with them at all. You can be a good student, but at least, say good morning and hi and bye when you leave. So that's specifically how the College of Business helped me start my career.
Nice. Yeah. So for me, I like to identify two things that really help me out. One's the obvious one. It's the coursework, right? And so for all the accounting and finance students out there, the coursework that you're going to go through to get that degree is more than enough to create a solid foundation of accounting knowledge to let you be successful in whatever you want to do. And I'll share this with y'all. I've really only shared it with my family, but I just want to hammer in the point that literally the coursework at UTA is more than enough. And in 2018, I took my CPA exams and was fortunate enough to pass them all on the first time. but I actually scored one of the top 5 scorers in the state of Texas during my testing window. And so I say that not to brag on myself or toot my own horn, but to say that I was at UTA the entire time. All of my classes for accounting at UTA. And so what I learned from those classes was more than enough to help me get that top 5 score. And that's not true just for accounting and finance, right? I think it's across the entire College of Business, because I felt like when I left, I had a good working knowledge of everything that I needed to know in the business world. So know that the education you're receiving at UTA in the College of Business is everything that you need to be successful. So that was number one for me. Number two, it was really the people, right? And the opportunities that you can take advantage of. Just like Nicole said, making sure you let your professors know who you are. They're more than willing to help you. Same with UTA alumni. They're more than willing to help you. And so, I do want to give a shout out to Goolsby. Because like I said, I wasn't super excited about the idea when I first heard about it, but it was probably one of, if not the best decisions I made during my time at UTA was to join Goolsby, and not only join it, but apply myself and take advantage of the opportunities that it presented itself, right? And so, like I said, the coursework is great, but Goolsby helped refine those soft skills, if you will, so that you can go out in the business world and have a conversation or do presentations, collaborate with other people. And Goolsby really helped me refine those skills and give confidence in myself that I could go out and do something like that, right? And just to close a loop on the people thing too, it really was the people that helped me get a start in the accounting space. So like I said, Drew was the one who got me into Goolsby. And then while I was in Goolsby, I met somebody in the older cohort, and he was like, hey, I'm working at this firm called PSK. They got an internship opening. Like, you should apply, Will. And so I applied and was fortunate enough to get that position. And that was my first foot in the door in the accounting space. And then later on that semester in Goolsby, one of the UTA alum comes back and does a presentation, and I talked to him and stayed in touch, and he kind of became a mentor for me. And he was working at Ernst & Young, and he helped me to eventually get an internship at Ernst & Young. And then my third place, which is now the Dallas Mavericks, I didn't have a direct connection there. But the skills and experience I was able to acquire at UTA because of the opportunities I took advantage of set me up to have a chance to get my foot in the door there and have that opportunity. So coursework and people, that's really what helped me get to where I am today.
I love that. And I also would strongly agree on those points as well. So the one that I guess the basis that you get is more than enough, like Will mentioned, to get you started in an entry level position where you're going to be going from there. I think for me, the biggest thing was the one, Goolsby, and two, the people aspect that came from that. I can attest and say that I would not be where I'm at today if it was not for getting involved within Goolsby. And I'll tell you a little bit about how that happened. So I'm not sure if these still happen, but when I was there, I'd say once or twice a semester, we would go and take a tour of a company in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And one of those happened to be BNSF Railway, where I went, and I had never heard of BNSF before. And BNSF is in Fort Worth, and it's the largest freight railroad in America. So I had never heard of it, but we went toward the facility, and when they take you in there, you see the control room, which is basically looks like it's a NASA floor room controlling all the trains across the U.S., the freight railroad. Had a speaker that came and just really talked about how, the railroad's central to the U.S. economy. And I felt inspired. But during that session, he said, hey, we are having an opportunity. We're having internships this summer and I want to invite all of you Goolsby scholars to apply. So I did. And I remember sitting in the College of Business parking lot for my first phone interview for the internship. And the first question they ask is, how did you hear about the internship? I said, well, I'm with Goolsby at College of Business at Arlington, and we went and had a tour of your facility, and your VP of marketing came and spoke to us. They're like, yes, we remember this group. And immediately just started the interview off on that positive note of, yes, hey, we remember you guys that came. You guys are, we know the group. We've had people come from you that work here right now. And immediately just created the opportunity from, becoming someone completely unfamiliar to I had this familiarity about me that set me apart. And then, was grateful to get that internship and build that great relationship there. And so really when I came back for my last year, within the first week of being back on campus, I had an offer from them to come back after I graduated, and got to continue with my career. But all of it came from just that one, Will talked about sometimes just those connections that you meet from being involved in things, just the relationships you get to build, and those just create opportunities for you as you give your time and your talents away to people. Those opportunities have a way of finding you. So big shout out to UTA and to Goolsby.
Well, thank you all. I think you all reinstated how important connections are within the College of Business. And I can attest as well as a student now that we are still supported very well with our faculty and staff and everything that we are provided with. And so we are more than blessed as a university, specifically the College of Business. And so thank you for sharing your stories with us today. My next question now will be, what is one piece of advice you can give to the next generation, specifically those who are in school right now, if there's something that you can give them as a piece of advice?
Just listening to Will and Austin, I'm just thinking about how different my path was just at UT Arlington. So I was really a study bug. Like I said, I'm super introverted. I'm not, a big extrovert. So I was the world's worst at like self-criticism, like, oh, you can do better, you can do more, you can do XYZ. So I was always constantly comparing myself to others. Like, okay, well, this person is, 22, they have XYZ, they're doing this, they're engaged with here. And I'm like, I should be there. And so I think one piece of advice is that, you're going to move at your own pace and you shouldn't compare yourself to everyone else because each person has a different amount on their plate. Each person's plate is bigger or smaller or whatnot. So I personally didn't get involved in a lot on campus just because I wanted to be able to put in as much as I wanted out of it. And I just knew I couldn't put in as much as I wanted to. So I think my big piece of advice is don't compare yourself to others. Just know that you're going to take whatever time you need to take. And if it takes, 7 years, it takes 7 years. If it takes 2 years, it takes 2 years. I think just, listening to your body, your mind, the external circumstances that are impacting you personally, like you and your family, that's just something that, you're going to have to take into consideration and just be patient with yourself and give yourself grace.
Yeah, my advice is building off of what Nicole said, right? And I'm going to keep it simple. I think you want to be authentic, right? You want to be you, be who you are. I think when you wake up in the morning and you think about everything that you're going to face that day, right? You want to be able to face everything in a genuine manner. And it's hard to do that if you're not being yourself. And it is related, but kind of on the flip side too, you don't want to let anybody take away from who you are. You know, and I say that too, you don't want to go lock yourself necessarily in a corner and don't talk to anybody, right? Because you need people there to push you and motivate you and help you become the best version of yourself. And if you totally stay away from people, right, then you're just going to put yourself in comfortable situations. And I think the notion that being comfortable, being uncomfortable, right, is absolutely true, because that's how you're going to push yourself to grow. And so you need people around you to help do that, right? But all this to say, be authentic, be you. Don't let somebody else dictate your path. Don't live out somebody else's dream, right? Live out your dream. And always stay true to who you are.
I wrote that down, Will. I'm gonna take that away. Mine builds on that though. Be present. So much of our time, we feel like I remember at the time we're at UTA, we're doing work to prepare for the future. It's kind of a long-term play that we're playing, and so our minds are kind of thinking that it comes to mind like, oh man, what am I going to do? If especially if you don't have something lined up right now, or that next step defined for yourself after you graduate, your brain space can be filled up with a lot of maybe worry or anxiety, about what the future can hold. But the present really is it's a gift, and being present in the moment will also create those opportunities for you in the future. Being present to the people around you, showing kindness to everyone that when you walk onto campus, just making your goal to be kind to as many people as you can in the day, because you never know who that could impact and change their path. And you never know, as you continue to do your best in your classes and just be present in the moment, those opportunities will come to you. And so maybe just to take a breath, and kind of just soak in the moment that you're in while you're at UTA. Because obviously, if you are on this call to learn and hear about from people who have graduated, there is either a hunger or drive to you want to seek excellence in what you do. There's already something set apart about you just by virtue of you being on this call. That or your professor is making you, which either way is still a good showing that you're here. So take a breath, be present, and show kindness to as many people as you can.
Well, thank you, Nicole, Will, and Austin. Those are very great advice that you have given. Thank you for taking your time to tell us about yourself and your time at the College of Business. I am now going to open it up for any questions that our audience might have. Again, you can raise your hand and ask them, and then we can let you ask them yourself, or if you want to type it in the chat, I can go ahead and read it to our panelists as well. So now we are taking our time to kind of open it up for questions for our audience members. Or if there's anything else you guys, okay, Brianna? It's our first question.
Yes.
Hi, Bree.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Hey, can you? Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, thank you so much to all three panelists. I think the insight and just the advice that you guys have given us is incredibly just valuable. I know for myself, as a soon-to-be graduate here in May, I've had so many of the same either questions or worries or fears. So I just want to say, thank you. My question specifically is for Nicole. So Nicole, I am interested in entering the HR industry, and so I'm very interested in knowing kind of high level, what do you do as an HR VP, and then what does a day in the life of a human resource business partner look like?
That's the one part that I love about being an HR business partner is no day is the same. So as an HR business partner in aeronautics, specifically, so in aeronautics, you have aeronautics is a business unit. So you have aeronautics, MFC, missiles and firearms. And then within aeronautics, you have different functions. So I support engineering and technology. And under engineering and technology, there are a couple VPs and several directors. So I support about 700 employees. One is a director, and then there are like 4 senior managers. So I'm in charge of that entire span of control. And really, I engage mostly with the leaders just on, everyday things like, hey, here's deliverables that are due. You know, they come to me with employee issues, whether it's, you know, work related, disciplinary related, security issues. Hey, you know, I have this individual with a clearance, you know, he's acting a bit sketchy, you know, here's an ethics case, here's, you know, a discrimination case, you know, we're going through promotion. So basically anything from the point when they onboard until the point when they offboard, I'm basically touching them. I'm the go-between between the leader and the employee as well. So anything in that employee span or life cycle you can think of, I probably touch. And a day in the life is typically you have your standing tag ups or one-on-ones with either your clients that you support, your leadership, or your different, you know, staff meetings. And then you'll have one-off tag ups or meetings just about, like I said, disciplinary actions, or maybe you'll get a call from security. Those are always fun. I always joke with my security and ethic POCs. I'm like, hey, I love hearing from you, but I don't like hearing from you. So like, what do you need from me today? And I always joke that I need to just call them once a week and just ask them how the weather is, because whenever they call me, something's about to go down. So like, I just, it's really different. You never get bored because there's a variety of different things that will come at you. So you're never bored. It is standard pretty much, you know, week by week. But like I said, there's enough variation that it'll mix up your day. Thanks for the question.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Nicole. We have a question in the chat from Dr. Hubbard. It's a general question. He is asking, how did your professional goals adjust 2 to 3 years after graduating? Anybody want to take a on that?
I can start with that one. Yeah. So there, I think one of the things that, you know, and you do this at UTA in your classes, but they always say like the best way to learn is actually by doing something. You know, it's not by sitting through PowerPoints, absorbing it. If you really want to learn something, you got to go through the reps. And you don't go through the reps like you do when you're in the actual job, in the role of what you're wanting to do. So for me, I started off as a software developer and was on, you know, development teams and doing things, maybe touching more on some like engineering side, which I was really enjoying. But a lot of the applications that we were developing, I felt like the thing that I was naturally drawn to when we were doing those things was the user experience. So we're developing these things on the back end to work a certain way, but my mind would always go, okay, what's the experience like for the people who are going to be using this technology, and how do we design that? So because of that, I started taking on more side projects that focus more on that, and it created opportunities to you know, do things more with user experience and design. And so I had to learn some things on like human psychology, human behavior, and how do you design technology to fit the way humans think and act throughout their day so that it's natural and doesn't actually interrupt their day or cause frustration. And things progress from there. And I think maybe the point is that your career is a journey of discovery. You know, some people, you know, they go into a profession. You know, I actually I won't even say that there's a generality of like there's people who find it and just do the same thing forever. It's a continual discovery process that you have by doing things, and so much of I think one of the classes that we had in Goolsby was all on learning about yourself and your style. And I would encourage everybody to like just have a yearly check-in with yourself of like, what am I doing that brings me energy? What am I doing that's draining energy from me? And how can I do more of the thing that's giving me energy? And so it's an exciting process to find that and learn about yourself. And that didn't really happen for me until after I started my career and the roles I was doing. So that's what I'd say there.
Thank you, Austin. Does anyone else want to say, Will or Nicole, want to add anything to the question for Dr. Hubbard?
I'll pitch in a little bit. Because my journey's a little different. So my dream job was always to work for the Mavericks in the accounting department. I never thought that opportunity was going to come so soon after graduation. And so from a location standpoint, right, my goal had been met. I was in the place I wanted to be. But like Austin said, the content of what you're doing daily is changing. And so I also found myself in a leadership role. So now instead of just trying to be the best accountant I can be, right, now I'm working with people and I'm trying to be the best leader I can be. So there's things that you're doing at my job currently that are always changing and adjusting. And so those goals are changing. I'll also say too, like Nicole mentioned, everybody's got different things on their plate, right? So I get married and I have 2 little kids at home now. Now I have to figure out, okay, I need to make sure I can manage my family and spend time with them while also focusing on my job to be successful there. And so everybody has something different on their plate, and the time management skills are crucial to making sure that you can manage all of that. So it's constantly evolving, but it's making the most of it and being able to adapt and pivot. That's the important thing.
Just kind of closing that loop. So to both of their points, we are living, breathing human beings, and it's not a straight road that you can't deviate from. Like we are it's all about checking and adjusting every day, being open to opportunities that may present themselves to you. So just taking it day by day. I'm just now hitting, just about to hit the 3-year mark after graduating with my master's. So right now, I'm in the place where I've been doing the same role on the same team with I've switched clients a little bit, but I've been doing my role for consistently, 3 years. So I've always heard, frequently in the last 3 years in my organization that early career individuals need to change jobs, at least every 2 to 3 years. And to me, I'm like, but I love my job. I love my team. I don't want to change. But I'm getting to the point now where I realize that I've learned everything that I can learn in my role and my position right now. So it's being open to the opportunities. It may seem scary to, switch business units, switch levels, switch teams. But, at the end of the day, you got to feel confident in yourself and know that you have, the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do what you're doing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the position that you were.
Thank you. Those are really great points, and thank you for answering that question. We have another question in the chat from Celeste Madden. Specifically for Will, she's asking, working with the Dallas Mavericks, what advice do you have for a marketing major aspiring to work in the sports industry when it comes to getting your foot in the door and making the right connections?
Celeste, great question. So, and I get that question a lot, right? Because I think the sports and entertainment industry is very appealing to a lot of people, right? And so it's different from the standpoint that, some other industries might need to go out and really try to sell themselves and go recruit. The sports and entertainment industry is different, right? They don't need to go sell themselves to anybody. They have a ton of people coming to them. So my first piece of advice is take the initiative, right? And you have to be proactive to go out and find the opportunity. It's not necessarily going to come to you. The other thing too is I don't know where you are in your journey through college, Celeste, but for me, I was able to do 3 internships, and that was the best thing that I ever did, because internships, making the most of those internships, that's the easiest way to get your foot in the door, right? Because you're just competing with college students. Once you graduate, now you're competing with everybody. So if you still have time, I would highly recommend trying to get an internship in the industry. And Dallas-Fort Worth is a great location for sports and entertainment. So anyway, always feel free to email me as well if you have any further questions. So, and my email, by the way, is my name at dallasmavs.com, will.goff@dallasmavs.com.
Mine is Nicole with an H Sheridan at lmco.com.
Austin, what's your email?
It's my first dot last name at bnsf.com.
Perfect. She said thank you. We're going to open this. Is there any other questions that the audience would like to ask our panelists? We probably have time for maybe one more. Is there anything the panelists would like to add to any previous topics that we have talked about? No. Okay. Well, if that's the case, again, the chat will be open. Oh, Dr. Bell. Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Bell. Dr. Bell asked, do you have any advice for those who haven't made such good grades in school? What kinds of things can students do to get a good position anyway? And how much do employers look at grades in determining whom to hire? It's a great question.
So from an HR perspective, a lot of the times, I've heard and, I've said, unless your GPA is like, 3.5 and above, just don't put your GPA on there. And you don't necessarily have to put your GPA on there anyway. Look, if you graduated, you have a degree. I would say, just apply for every single position, and the worst you can do is get told no. But there may be that one in that one company that just really needs someone, and they're going to give you a chance. So I would just say always apply, and if you're told no, but if that that one chance that you guys said you get told yes, then there you go.
Yeah, I'll just add on a little bit there. I think, straight out of college, that's really the only time your GPA is going to matter. And so like Nicole said, if you happen to not have the highest GPA, maybe you can't start at the place that you want to start necessarily, and that's okay, right? You find the place that gives you the opportunity, and from there you build your experience. And once you build the experience, that allows you the freedom of movement throughout your career. And so, you might not start where you want to necessarily, but it doesn't mean you can't finish where you want to.
I feel like I really don't need to add. You heard from the HR specialist and the wisdom of Will. So the only thing that came to mind was is that if you're kind of rounding out your journey at UTA and your grades, you're on the C gets a degree path, which it does. And like Will mentioned, after you graduate, that first job is typically the only one where a GPA sort of matters. It may be time just to shift gears and think, okay, can I build some type of experience by doing good work for somebody that can speak to my experience during this time, and it may be starting in a lower position that you don't want to, but it's an opportunity to say, hey, if you struggled in the classroom, but you're still a great worker, that's your reputation will follow you in that sense. And that will lead to the next opportunity, because you'll have somebody that can speak to say, hey, this person does a great job. And I always went for really good grades, but good grades are not indicative of the all in all of finding someone who can do good in a role. It's one data point. Emotional intelligence is important. There's so many other skill sets of just being able to work with people, and being consistent in what you're doing and showing up, which is half the battle sometimes. Someone who's reliable, that someone can trust, are huge things. So that's the only thing that came to mind for me. But I think really focus on what Will and Nicole said.
Well, thank you all. Those are very good points to make. And I think there's one last question in the chat. If there are any careers in business for someone majoring in engineering.
I don't necessarily know if I understand the question. So I support engineering and technology. So all of my clients have some type of engineering degree. But I'm sure if you want to work specifically in like the business area, I'm sure you can get like a software programming position somewhere.
Yeah, and Carl, I've seen some people too, right, where the skill set I think you acquire in engineering can be transferable to an analytics type role, right, on the business side. So I've seen that kind of be the entry point. But that's primarily the only one I can think of.
Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple. He's an engineer. There's tons of engineers who end up on C-suites in companies. I guess it just depends on what you want to do first when you're out of college. You know, if you're studying engineering and you want to do some engineering, there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for you to bridge that gap over into a more business role. There's a lot of roles that I see now for business analysis, which if it's more of a technical engineering, is a lot with, you know, kind of stats, data analysis, which are bridges over into the business world. If it's more of like a mechanical or electrical type of engineering, a lot of times you need business skill sets in an engineering role. Because if you think about engineering projects, there's processes where you go through winning a contract, writing a contract, and then all those things that lead up to it. You may not be working with those directly in an engineering role when you start, but you'll be working alongside people who are involved with that, and you can get to know them, learn from them on what they do, and if that's interesting to you.
Thank you all for I think those are great points that you have made. And I think we're just going to wrap it all up now that we are, so we can end on time and so everybody can go back to their busy schedule. So I do want to take this time to thank everyone for attending today's panel, and especially thank our panelists, Nicole, Will, and Austin, for sharing their valuable insights with us. Any unanswered questions, if any, might come up later, will be addressed in the chat, which you will have access to after the close of this panel. So I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. And yeah, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lorraine.